But I'm curious, what is it about fighting? Because many people watching this, they've never fought in their lives, and when they see you in a cage, they're like, "Why would you do this?" you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's what they say is one of the biggest phobias for people out there is a physical fight, confrontation, and public speaking. Those are like the two things that like get people their stomachs churning, and for whatever reason, I've had since I was a little kid just a desire to be in contact sports, and on top of that, kind of a self-belief that I was the toughest. I remember thinking as a little kid, looking in the mirror and taking into consideration the fact that I had done kindergarten twice and looking at the fourth graders and I was in the third grade and being like, what if I could take them if I was the toughest kid on the planet for my age? And it was just kind of a question for me and something that I was intrigued to find out. And I was never allowed to fight growing up. My parents were pretty adamant about that. Once they had organized wrestling in school, I got into wrestling, I think, in the 8th grade and carried that throughout college. But I don't know. I think there's something that's primitive and something that was instinctual for me to go in there and test myself. And then kind of the lessons that I learned leading up to my MMA career, where I started becoming a pro fighter, made me think different when I started that path. I had started wrestling a little bit late, and I feel like during that time, even though I was writing down goals, I wasn't super calculated with them. I wasn't thinking big enough, in my opinion. And because I came up short in my college career, I think stepping into the fight world, I wasn't afraid to think bigger. And I remember writing down my goals when I first graduated college. It was 3 things. At the time, it was Pride and the UFC were the biggest shows. So I wanted to be a world champion in Pride of the UFC, and I wanted to own 2 houses within the next 3 years or 4 years, which is funny because I was well below the poverty line with kind of a bleak path to success. And I wanted to start a healthy and successful business. So those are 3 things that I wrote down right away. And I always go back to what I was writing down in college. Like you said, always been about writing down my goals and putting things down on paper. But in college, the top 8 in the nation for Division I wrestling are all American. And I started out in college writing down, I wanted to beat the guys on my team, and I wanted to go to the Pac-10s, and I wanted to do this. And the climax of my goal setting for my junior and senior year in college was to become an All-American, which is pretty good. But I always looked back at it and thought, why didn't I not put down to be a national champion, to be the champion? I set just to be the top 8 and not to be number 1. It was almost like I was buffering myself from disappointment, or just couldn't let myself think that big. And that to this day still bothers me. And I took that lesson the next year when I graduated college and came up short my college year at even the smaller goal that I had set, and rethought and said, okay, I'm going to go as big as I can. I want to be the world champion now and at the very beginning. And that was a big lesson for me.
Alright, so if you're still watching this video, the chances are you really enjoyed it, and if that's the case, well, first of all, thank you for your time, but also make sure that you subscribe and click on that little bell notification button. The simple reason is that if you don't click on it, you may not get notified when I publish new videos. Once again, thank you so much and have an amazing day.